Sometimes the loudest healing comes in silence, and the most powerful move is the one you choose not to make. There is a kind of wisdom that doesn't come from effort, but from surrender, a strength that blooms not in the doing, but in the stillness. We live in a world that glorifies motion, rush, strive, hustle, grind, but what if I told you today that nothing may be the very thing that changes everything? This is not an invitation to give up. It is an awakening to give in to the timing of life, to the wisdom of patience, to the power of stillness. Because there are moments in your life when your greatest growth doesn't come from what you chase, it comes from what you allow. So if you're tired of forcing things, if you're done stretching your soul to fit into spaces that reject your spirit, stay with me. This isn't just a message. It's a permission slip to breathe, release, and watch life rearrange itself on your behalf. Let me show you how doing nothing is sometimes doing the most sacred work of all. There comes a moment in every weary soul's journey when you must ask yourself a question that shakes you to your center. What am I still holding on to that's already let go of me? The world teaches us early to cling, to hold fast, to prove our worth by our grip, but not everything that slips away from you is your loss. Sometimes letting go is not the end, it is the very beginning. We are taught that strength looks like holding on, like endurance, like persistence at all costs. But strength has many forms, and one of the rarest, most revolutionary forms of strength is release. Letting go is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is maturity. It is the quiet confidence of a soul that has learned to trust life, even when life does not explain itself. There is a tug of war many of us have been playing for far too long, a battle we never needed to fight, yet one we've wrapped our hands around until our knuckles turned white. We pull on the rope, harder, louder, longer, hoping that if we tug just right, what we want will come back to us. The love that walked away, the dream that faded, the plan that fell through. We pull because we believe that our effort must be enough to resurrect what's dying, but all the while, the other end of the rope is empty. There's nobody tugging back, no force resisting you, no energy meeting you halfway. You are fighting a ghost and calling it destiny. You are exhausting your spirit and calling it purpose. But beloved, tugging on what has released you will not bring peace. It will only bring pain. There are times when life demands action, yes. Times when you must dig in your heels and fight for what you love. But there are also sacred times, quieter, subtler, where the most powerful thing you can do is drop the rope. Stand still. Take your hands off the struggle. Watch how your peace returns when you stop begging life to go the way it won't. Letting go of the tug of war is not about apathy. It is about alignment. It is about recognizing what is no longer part of your becoming. Because the truth is, anything that belongs to you by divine design will not need to be forced. It will flow. It may challenge you, it may stretch you, but it will never forsake you. If someone has to be convinced to stay, they've already left in spirit. If something has to be manipulated to work, it's already broken in soul. If you constantly feel drained trying to keep it alive, it may not be yours to carry. You cannot tug people into loving you right. You cannot wrestle your way into a season that has already expired, and you cannot force timing to bow to your urgency. Some of the most powerful shifts in life come not when you act, but when you stop acting, when you stop performing, when you stop persuading, when you stop pushing against doors that will never open because they were never carved for you to walk through. What would happen if you simply stopped? What if you loosened your grip on the very thing that's been gripping your peace? Imagine the energy you'd reclaim if you no longer fought battles that weren't yours. Imagine the breath you'd exhale if you released that name from your prayers, not in bitterness, but in blessed surrender. Imagine the rest you'd feel in your bones if you walked away from that idea, that identity, that image of your life that no longer serves the woman or man you are becoming. Letting go is an act of radical trust. It says, I do not need to fight for what is mine. What is mine will not miss me. What is meant for me will meet me, whole, honest, and on time. There is grace in release, there is power in peace, and there is a deep, unshakable knowing that rises in your soul when you stop forcing and start flowing. The rope you've been holding might not only be keeping the other thing close, it might be tying you down, binding your energy, blocking your blessings. Because as long as you are tethered to what doesn't want you, you are unavailable to receive what does. Every yes to force is a no to flow. So many of us confuse attachment for love. We think that if we let go, we're giving up. But giving up is when you abandon yourself to chase what won't claim you. Letting go is when you choose yourself. You choose your healing. You choose your sanity. You choose your wholeness. Because the longer you hold that rope, the deeper the burn on your palms. The longer you pull, the more you bleed. And still the silence answers back. You deserve a life that doesn't require you to beg. A love that doesn't require a performance. A peace that doesn't demand exhaustion. But you'll never receive it if your hands are full of the rope from yesterday. There is a sacred silence after surrender. It's uncomfortable at first. You'll ache to reach for that rope again. You'll wonder if you did the right thing. You'll miss the tension, the noise, the constant tug, because chaos can feel like home when it's what you're used to. But stay in that silence. Breathe into that pause, because something holy happens there. In the quiet space after letting go, your spirit starts to breathe again. Your intuition begins to rise again. Your joy peeks out from under the grief like morning sun through cracked blinds. You begin to remember what it felt like before the rope, before the war, before the constant ache of trying to prove your place in something that no longer had room for you. Freedom isn't always loud. Sometimes it walks in quietly after you set down the very thing that's been weighing you down. Sometimes it doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It arrives in the hush of a morning where you feel peace, for no reason at all. That's the gift of letting go. That's the reward of dropping the rope. So if you've been holding on out of habit, obligation, fear, or guilt, this is your permission to release. Not because you're weak, but because you're wise. Because you're done negotiating with what has already decided to go. Because your soul deserves rest, and your spirit was never made to stay in bondage for the sake of appearances. You don't need to win a tug of war when there's no one on the other side. So open your hands, breathe deep, let the rope fall, and just watch what rises in you when you do. The world will keep you busy. It will keep your hands full, your calendar packed, your heart half-heard, and your spirit smothered beneath the noise. It will tell you that you must always be doing, fixing, chasing, building, replying, rushing, and you will believe it. You will believe that the answers you seek live somewhere just ahead of your next effort. That clarity will come after one more call, one more solution, one more conversation. But truth doesn't come through the crowd. It doesn't thunder in behind the noise. It whispers, and the only ears that can catch a whisper are still. There is a knowing that arrives only when you sit down. A peace that is found only when the world is quiet. There are revelations that pass over the frantic and land gently in the lap of the still. You may not be used to silence. It can be uncomfortable, even unsettling at first. The quiet will force you to hear the very thing you've been trying to drown out: yourself, your fears, your grief, your longings, your unmet dreams. They all rise in the silence like incense from a soul that's been waiting to be seen. But listen, don't run, sit there, let it rise, because beneath all that noise comes the answer. We are conditioned to look outward, to seek advice, validation, affirmation, permission. We scroll for signs, we chase approval, we read books and quotes and teachings and trends, all hoping someone else holds the truth we need. But the deepest truth lives inside of you. It always has. Not in your logic, but in your knowing. Not in your mind, but in your spirit. And it will not compete for your attention. It will not shout over your distractions. It waits in the quiet. Stillness is not about doing nothing. Stillness is an action, a powerful one. It is a practice of trust. It's the bold refusal to let the noise of the world drown out the sound of your own wisdom. There are things you are meant to remember, things you already know, but you've forgotten them in your rush. You've forgotten how your body speaks, how it tenses when you're in the wrong place, how it softens when you're in the right one. You've forgotten how your breath tells the truth, how it shortens in fear, expands in peace. You've forgotten that clarity is not something you chase, but something you uncover by removing what is not real, what is not you, what is not now. Silence doesn't mean absence. Sometimes it means presence, full and unfiltered. We fear silence because we think it means we are alone. But there is something divine that enters when you make space for it. That is when your Creator draws close. That is when your ancestors speak. That is when your soul sits up and says, now you're listening. Think of the ocean. It does not fight to be understood. It does not explain its rhythm. It just moves, deep, slow, sure. And the truth inside of you is the same. It doesn't perform. It doesn't demand. It just is. It only waits for you to quiet down enough to notice. We have made noise a comfort, but it is often a cage. Busyness has become our badge of worthiness. We confuse exhaustion with achievement. We wear burnout like a crown. But beneath all that motion, we are empty, restless, unsure, because we've mistaken movement for meaning, and the meaning only comes in the pause. Sometimes the answer to your confusion is not a new plan, it's a sacred pause, not a new direction, but a moment to stop, to gather yourself, to come home to your breath, to ask yourself, what do I really know beneath all my wanting? And there, in the hush, you will hear it. You'll remember that you are not lost. You are just crowded, not broken, just disconnected, not confused, just distracted. The clarity you're searching for is not on the next screen or in the next opinion or in the next fix. It is already inside you, in the quiet place behind the noise, behind the striving. But you have to sit long enough for the dust to settle. You have to trust the hush. You have to believe that your soul still knows the way, even if your mind has forgotten. There is a sacred intelligence beneath your fear. There is a rhythm beneath your chaos. There is a knowing beneath your panic. And to reach it, you must descend below the surface, below the rolls, below the noise. Stillness is a return, a homecoming, a reconnection with the you that was whole before the world told you who to be, before expectations twisted your voice, before pain taught you to hide, before noise buried your intuition. Go there, turn off the volume, set down the distractions, be brave enough to do nothing but listen. At first, you may hear the old voices, the ones that judge, accuse, compare, shame, but stay. Don't move. Beneath them, something deeper speaks, softer, kinder, wiser. It says, you already know. You don't need to prove. You are safe now. This next chapter does not require who you used to be. You can rest now. That's the power of the quiet. It clears the fog. It peels back the noise. It opens the ear of the spirit and allows you to hear what the world drowns out, truth. There are seasons when action is required, but there are also sacred seasons where doing more will only lead to deeper confusion. In those seasons, the only right answer is to be still, to breathe, to listen, and to trust that revelation will rise not from doing, but from being. So if the path ahead looks foggy, if the decision feels heavy, if the options seem blurred, don't force it, don't rush it, don't panic, be still. Your soul is speaking, but it needs space and silence and surrender. Sometimes the breakthrough is not in the noise you add, but in the noise you remove, because in the end, the most important answers are not shouted from mountaintops. They are whispered in the still chambers of your own being. So sit quietly, beloved. Don't chase the answer. Let the answer find you. It always will. There is a sacred ache in trying to revive what no longer wants to live. A quiet kind of grief in pouring your light into something that keeps turning away from the sun. You know the feeling when your heart keeps returning to the same dry well, hoping, praying, believing that one more drop of love, one more ounce of effort, one more second chance might make something bloom again. But what do you do when the thing you love has already decided to die? You stop watering what's already wilted. Life has a rhythm. Things grow, things blossom, and yes, things also wither. That truth is not your failure. It is nature. It is design. It is the way the seasons teach us to release. But our spirits, full of love and loyalty and memory, often refuse the letting go. We cling to what was. We fight for what has already let us go. We stay, we pour, we hope, and all the while we are emptying ourselves into something that no longer has the roots to receive us. You are not meant to spend your life trying to convince something dead to come back to life. And yet we keep watering. We keep trying. Not because we're foolish, but because we're faithful. Because we remember what it once was. We remember the beauty of the bloom, the way it smiled back at us when we gave it light, the way it stood tall in seasons of joy. We remember what it meant, and we cannot bear the thought of losing it, so we give more and more and more, until the soil beneath us is dry and we have nothing left. But here's the truth the soul knows, even when the heart doesn't want to hear it. Some things die so you can live. Some relationships, some jobs, some dreams, some versions of you. They are not meant to go with you into the next season, and no matter how much you water them, no matter how tenderly you tend to them, they will not rise again, not because you are not worthy, not because you did not love enough, but because their time is done. You can love a thing and still need to walk away from it. You can cherish the past and still choose the future. You can be loyal and still let go. There is no honor in self-abandonment. There is no glory in staying in spaces that can no longer nourish your spirit. Stop calling it growth when it's really decay. Stop calling it strength when it's actually surrendering your own peace. You are not required to keep something alive just because it once made you feel whole. There are gardens that no longer want your rain, flowers that no longer turn toward you, and it is not your job to chase the sun for them. Let them be, bless them, but walk away, because for every wilted bloom you're still mourning, there is a new seed waiting for your attention, a part of you that is ready to flourish, but cannot, because your hands are too busy tending to what no longer needs your care. You are not a savior. You are a soul, and your energy is sacred. Every drop of your love deserves a place where it can be received, where it can grow, where it can echo back in beauty and gratitude. Stop giving your tenderness to things that only know how to take. Stop confusing effort with alignment. Just because you worked hard for it doesn't mean it's right for you. There is a kind of silence that tells you everything you need to know. When something stops blooming, listen. When something keeps draining you, listen. When your intuition feels tight every time you return to it, listen. We often ignore the wisdom of our bodies. We call the knots in our stomach coincidence. We dismiss the tightness in our chest as stress. We explain away the way our breath shortens in certain spaces. But these are not accidents. These are signals. The soul speaks in the language of discomfort when we refuse to honor what it already knows. And sometimes the truth it's whispering is this: this isn't for you anymore. It was once, but it's not now. You don't owe forever to things that are only meant to be seasonal. There is no shame in having loved something that didn't last. There is no weakness in walking away from what no longer grows, and there is nothing wrong with recognizing that your soil needs something new, new light, new water, new space to breathe. You are allowed to outgrow what you once wanted. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to protect your peace even when it makes others uncomfortable. The flower does not apologize when it stops blooming. The tree does not beg for understanding when it sheds its leaves. And you, a being formed in beauty, shaped in strength, do not need to explain your healing. You simply need to honor it. It is not your responsibility to stay somewhere just because it once made you smile. That smile, that season, that love, it served its purpose. It taught you what it needed to teach. It gave you what it came to give. Now let it return to the earth. Let it rest. The soil that held one season's bloom may not be meant to hold the next, and that's okay, because your soul is not a graveyard. It is a garden. And gardens need pruning. They need clearing. They need the boldness to remove what no longer bears fruit. That is not cruelty. That is care. That is how you make room for what is coming. So stop watering what's already wilted. Lay down the watering can, step back, breathe, and turn toward the places that still hold potential. Turn toward the seeds that make your spirit rise. Turn toward the dreams that still make your heart whisper, yes, this is for me. You are not here to mourn what has ended for the rest of your life. You are here to bloom, even now, especially now. There are things happening in your life right now that your eyes cannot see and your hands cannot touch, but your spirit, your spirit feels the shift. You can't quite name it. You can't fully explain it, but something is moving. Something is shifting beneath the surface. Something is being rearranged in the quiet, in the dark, in the places you cannot reach. And the only thing being asked of you in this season is to trust it. This world teaches us to measure progress by what we can see. It teaches us to believe in results, in visibility, in proof. But the soul does not move by sight. It moves by faith. And there is a sacred rearrangement happening on your behalf, even when life feels slow, even when doors seem stuck, even when you feel left behind. You are not forgotten. You are being positioned. Sometimes it takes the unraveling for the rebuilding to begin. Sometimes the things that fall apart are the very things that must be cleared to make room for your true becoming. The job that slipped through your fingers, the friendship that faded without reason, the door that closed just when you thought it was finally your turn. None of it is punishment. It is realignment. It is love in disguise. It is the divine saying, not this, my dear, because there is better. You must trust that what is meant for you is not sitting idle, waiting for you to earn it. It is being carved, shaped, molded even now. Just because it hasn't arrived doesn't mean it's not being prepared. And just because you can't feel the movement doesn't mean the miracle isn't on the way. There are seasons when nothing makes sense, when the map disappears and all you have is the next step, and even that step feels unsure. In those moments, trust is your anchor. Trust is the compass. Trust is the bridge between confusion and clarity. You must believe that the silence is not empty, it is sacred. That the delay is not denial, it is protection. That the redirection is not rejection, it is mercy. What if you knew deep in your bones that everything was actually working for your good even now? What if you believed that your tears were watering your next harvest, that your waiting was stretching your soul in preparation for greater things? What if you stopped resisting the quiet and started receiving it as holy ground? You do not need to see the whole path to be on the right one. The truth is, life will not always tell you what it's doing while it's doing it. The divine is not in the business of giving full disclosure. It doesn't explain every storm. It doesn't reveal every reason, but it is always working. And what feels like a pause may be the very moment your path is being rearranged in the background, gently, wisely, perfectly, so that when you arrive, the way is clear. So don't be fooled by what looks still. Stillness is not stagnation. It is strategy. It is setup. The roots grow long before the tree breaks the soil. The foundation is laid long before the house rises. You cannot see the quiet work being done underneath the surface, but it is essential. And you, my dear, are being prepared for something you cannot yet name. There is a version of your life that exists beyond your imagination, but it cannot arrive until certain things are removed, certain habits, certain relationships, certain beliefs. So things may fall apart now, not because you are cursed, but because you are being cleansed. Let them fall. Let the things that are not rooted in truth slip through your fingers. Let the plans that were never aligned collapse gently to the ground. Do not chase what is being cleared. Do not mourn what is being moved. Do not try to resurrect what is being released. Trust that what remains and what returns is yours. Trust that the universe never takes without the intention to replace. And what it brings back to you will fit, it will nourish, it will not require you to shrink. Faith is not about pretending everything is okay. Faith is about believing that even when things are not okay, you are still safe, still held, still carried. It's choosing to stand in the middle of the unknown and say, I don't know how, but I know it's coming. This rearrangement will not always look like progress. Sometimes it will look like breakdown. Sometimes it will look like confusion. It may look like loss, but trust the process that doesn't announce itself. Trust the sacred mess. Trust the clearing out. Because beneath all the noise, your life is being rewritten in favor of your freedom. You don't have to understand it. You just have to not interrupt it. That means stop forcing things to happen before their time. Stop trying to hold together what wants to fall apart. Stop running after people who have shown you, in no uncertain terms, that they are not meant to go with you. Sometimes the only thing keeping the breakthrough from arriving is you refusing to make space for it. Surrender your timeline. Loosen your grip. Let things breathe. Allow life to bring you what is already yours. You don't need to strive for what is designed for you. You simply need to prepare your spirit to receive it. And that preparation often looks like waiting, like resting, like trusting that what's coming is bigger than what's gone. You are not being punished. You are being refined. And the life that's being rearranged behind the scenes, it's not random, it's not late, it's not missing, it's perfectly timed. You're not forgotten, you're just in transition. So breathe, even in this moment, yes, this moment, something sacred is unfolding. The connections are being made, the answers are coming, the opportunities are aligning, the blessing is on its way. Not because you earned it, not because you chased it, but because you trusted it. You trusted the stillness. You trusted the silence. You trusted the unseen rearrangement. And that trust will never return void. There is a time to plant, and there is a time to wait, a time to speak, and a time to be still, a time to build, and a time to simply believe. But the problem is we don't know how to wait. Not really. We fidget. We interfere. We hover over our own prayers like anxious gardeners digging up seeds to see if they've started to bloom. And in doing so, we interrupt the holy work that is happening beneath the surface. We say we trust the divine, but we keep grabbing the steering wheel. We say we've surrendered, but we keep rearranging the altar. We say, let your will be done, and then we rush to make sure it looks like our will instead. But what if we really did trust? What if we believed that the silence was sacred? What if we understood that not everything needs our hand on it to flourish? The divine does not work on our timeline. It doesn't hustle for our approval. It doesn't explain itself while unfolding. It simply moves with wisdom, with perfect timing, with intention that we may never fully understand until years later when we look back and say, that's why it happened like that. But until then, our job is not to rush it. Our job is not to control it. Our job is not to interrupt the sacred choreography taking place behind the veil. We've been conditioned to equate movement with meaning. If we're not doing something, we fear we're losing everything. But there is a deep and holy strength in standing still. There is power in resting your hands while the divine keeps working. There is wisdom in knowing when your part is over and heaven's part has begun. You see, there are some blessings that only arrive when you get out of the way. Some breakthroughs only unfold when you stop forcing. Some healing only settles in when you stop touching the wound. There is a reason why faith has always been described as surrender, not control. Because faith trusts that what is meant to rise will rise without manipulation. That what is sacred does not require force to be fulfilled. We interrupt the divine every time we chase what's already drifting away, every time we beg for clarity when the silence is actually the answer, every time we return to the old when the new is quietly trying to find us. You don't need to micromanage what the universe is shaping. You don't need to follow up on every prayer like it's a customer service request. Let it breathe, let it build, let it bloom on its own schedule. Because trust me, the blessing that arrives in divine timing is always more beautiful than the one you try to rush. Think of all the times your interference led to more confusion than clarity, all the times your urgency drowned out your peace, all the times your desperation spoke louder than your discernment. You meant well, you wanted results, you craved certainty, but your soul wasn't built for control. It was built for connection, connection to the flow, connection to the voice within, connection to the divine order that is so far above your understanding, it humbles you. Stop interrupting what's being arranged for you. The opportunity that disappeared may have saved you from a deeper loss. The relationship that ended may have spared you from years of shrinking. The path that closed may have been protection wearing the mask of disappointment, but you'll never see it for what it is if you keep stepping in, trying to edit the script of a story that was never yours to write. You are not the architect of all outcomes. You are the vessel. And a vessel does not tell the ocean where to go. It simply surrenders to the current. This doesn't mean you become passive. It doesn't mean you stop dreaming. It means you honor your part, and then you release the rest. You plant the seed, you tend the soil, and then you let the sun and rain do what only they can do. Some of the most miraculous things that have ever happened in your life came in moments where you had no control at all. Think about it. The person who showed up out of nowhere, the door that opened when you were ready to give up, the healing that found you in your stillness, the words that came when your voice had run out. You didn't orchestrate that. You didn't manufacture that. It found you. It rose from the quiet. It arrived without your striving. And that's the way of the divine. It works in layers and levels beyond your comprehension. It sees what you cannot. It removes what you don't know is hurting you. It withholds what you think you need, not out of cruelty, but because it's making space for what will actually bless you. But if you keep trying to control what only God can touch, you'll miss it. You'll delay it, you'll distort it, because divine timing cannot be rushed, divine order cannot be dictated, and divine blessings cannot be bribed. They are received. So rest your hands, rest your mind, rest your need to understand it all right now. Some answers will come later. Some clarity only rises after the dust settles. Some beauty is only revealed once you stop demanding that it show up on your schedule. Breathe. Your job is not to carry the whole thing. Your job is not to heal everything today. Your job is not to know the ending before the next scene begins. Your job is to trust, to show up each day in love, to do your part in faith, to live in alignment, and to allow the divine to finish what it has started. There is a masterpiece being painted with the brushstrokes of your becoming. Every detail is intentional. Every color has meaning. Every pause has purpose. Don't ruin the art by rushing the artist. Stay out of the way. Watch what happens when you stop interfering and start allowing. Watch what finds you when your hands are open instead of clutching. Watch what peace settles into your life when you finally say, I don't need to control this, because I trust the one who does. There is a kind of stillness that doesn't mean stopping, it means centering. A kind of stillness that doesn't mean you're doing nothing. It means you're finally doing the most important thing, listening. But we live in a world that sees stillness as laziness, a world that worships the rush, glorifies exhaustion, and calls burnout ambition. It will tell you that you are falling behind if you aren't constantly moving, that if you're not producing, striving, scheduling, or sweating, you're not progressing. But don't let the noise of the world drown out the wisdom of your soul. Stillness is not a failure to act. It is the courage to pause before you act. It is not avoiding the moment. It is entering the moment fully, without distraction, without disguise. There is a deep intelligence in stillness, a spiritual knowing that rises only when everything else is quiet. And you, beloved, are not behind because you have paused. You are wise because you have remembered that not every answer comes from motion. Some only come from silence. It is tempting to always be on, to prove your value with productivity, to seek your worth in busyness. But ask yourself, what if all this rushing is only taking you further from where you were meant to be? What if the things you are chasing are only meant to meet you when you slow down long enough to be found? You were not created to live in constant motion. Even the earth, with all its glory, has seasons of stillness. Even the moon, with all its pull, has moments of pause. So why do you demand of yourself a pace that not even the stars keep? There is wisdom in knowing when to move, but there is a higher wisdom in knowing when to be still, the kind of stillness that clears the dust off your intuition, the kind of stillness that allows the truth to catch up to you. It's not about doing less. It's about being more present with what already is. Stillness is where your soul catches its breath. Stillness is where clarity finds its way back home. Stillness is where God speaks in the hush between heartbeats. If you never stop moving, you will never know what is truly guiding you: purpose or pressure, peace or panic, truth or performance. You cannot hear your own wisdom when you are buried beneath noise. You cannot feel the fullness of your own spirit when you are always running, always proving, always pretending not to be tired. But when you pause, when you truly stop, you give yourself back to yourself. There is a sacred space between the doing and the becoming, a holy silence that exists between the end of one chapter and the beginning of the next. You don't need to fill that silence with effort. Let it be. Let it teach you. Let it speak the truths you've been too busy to hear. You are not idle when you are still. You are rooting, deepening, restoring, realigning. Think of the tree. It does not panic when winter comes. It does not try to blossom in the cold. It does not rush to impress the forest. It simply stands. Still, knowing that stillness is not the end of growth, it is part of it. Knowing that beneath the frozen soil, roots are stretching deeper, stronger, so that when the season shifts again, it can rise higher. You are no different. Your soul is doing work beneath the surface, even when the world sees nothing but stillness. The unseen transformation is just as sacred as the visible one. Stop letting the world's shallow definitions of success make you question your deeper knowing. You don't have to be seen to be significant. You don't have to be busy to be becoming. Let them run, let them chase, let them think you are doing nothing. You know better. You know that stillness is an act of power, an act of resistance, an act of grace. To choose to pause in a world that profits from your exhaustion is to reclaim your soul from the hands of urgency. Stillness teaches you how to hear again, not the voices of fear or doubt, but the voice of truth inside you that says, you are already enough. That voice that says, you don't need to rush what is meant for you. That voice that says, you are not lazy, you are listening. Listening is labor too. Listening to your own breath. Listening to the quiet stirrings of your intuition. Listening to the divine pulse that says, not yet, just wait. We often mistake silence for absence, but absence and presence are not opposites when it comes to the spirit. Stillness is where the divine gathers, where the answers are nurtured, where the instructions for the next step begin to form. Don't miss your direction because you're too loud to hear it. Don't miss your healing because you're too hurried to feel it. Don't miss your peace because you think rest is something you must earn. You don't need to earn rest. You deserve rest. You don't need to apologize for needing stillness. You require stillness. It's not just okay to pause, it's necessary, it's holy, it's revolutionary. Because when you learn to honor the stillness, you stop being tossed by every storm, you stop being pulled by every opinion, you stop being ruled by urgency. You remember who you are, not just in motion, but in essence. And who you are is not what you do. Who you are is not how much you produce. Who you are is not the noise you make in the world. Who you are is found in the stillness. In that quiet breath before the next decision. In that moment where you step back, step inside, and ask, what is real for me right now? The world may not clap for your pause, but heaven does, your ancestors do, your body does, your soul does, because they know that in stillness you become more you. There will come a time when your strength is not proven by how much you carry, but by how gracefully you set things down, when you no longer hustle for what will come when you are ready, when you no longer beg for space in places that no longer see you, when you no longer try to prove to anyone, including yourself, that you're doing enough, because you will have remembered, stillness is not a delay. It is the deep breath before the breakthrough. It is the soil before the bloom. It is the space where the divine does its most intricate work. So stand still, not because you have nothing to give, but because you're finally ready to give from a place that is full. And that, beloved, is wisdom. So today, do nothing, not out of apathy, but out of authority. Not because you've lost hope, but because you've found peace. Because sometimes the most profound transformation happens not when you force the door open, but when you sit down, cross your legs, breathe deep, and trust that the right one will swing wide all on its own. So do nothing, and watch how it all falls into place.